Good evening, everyone. This is Larry Phillips. It's the 3rd of July, going on midnight here. And I want to talk about something I've talked about before, and that is discouragement. You know, when we get discouraged, it's oftentimes the fact that we have unrealistic expectations about ourselves and other people. We have something in our minds that we expect is going to be a certain way, and it just happens not to be that way. So reality is different than what our expectations were. And so I have found down through the years that when I get discouraged, it's because I've had unrealistic expectations regarding events in my life, my expectations of others, my expectations of my relatives, my expectations of what life has dealt me. When we can come to realize that we are not in charge of our destiny, we can have less discouragement in our life and realize that God's in control. If we have these expectations in our minds about how people are going to respond to us, how people are going to treat us, how things should be, and they don't measure up to our expectations, then we get downhearted and discouraged, don't we? You know, down throughout my life, things have not even been close to what I would have imagined that they would be. You know, by and large, I have not had a good relationship with my relatives, you know, and I don't necessarily like that. But our values are different. By and large, the last 10 years while my mom was living, I did not have a good relationship with my mom, because she believed totally different than I did. It didn't feel good. I would have loved to have a close, loving relationship with my mom, but in reality, I didn't. As far as what life has dealt me, I haven't always enjoyed the struggles that I've had in my life, whether vocationally or whether financially or physically. I've had physical struggles. I don't necessarily enjoy those things. You know, there's a verse in Ecclesiastes that talks about sadness is better than laughter for the soul. Sometimes sadness brings us into a closer relationship with God because we realize that He's in control. You know, I have some very dear friends that God has brought into my life. You know, but there's also some friends that God has taken away out of my life. They no longer want to have a relationship with me. That doesn't necessarily feel good. I've often said, you know, feelings are fickle. And sometimes when we reflect back on our lives, we realize that the times that we've been the most discouraged and downhearted and sad is when we've had unrealistic expectations about how our life is going. You know, So that's what I have on my mind this evening. So let us look to Christ for our encouragement. Let's look to Christ for our comfort. Let's look to Christ as the friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Let's look to Christ for all the answers in our life, realizing that all things do work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are the called according to his purpose. That doesn't mean everything is good. It means that all things work together for good, including the bad things and the disappointments and the discouragements in our life. May the good Lord be with you this holiday, and may you realize that we cannot control our circumstances. We cannot change how others respond to us. We can only look to Christ for our sustenance and daily encouragement. God bless.